Seeger into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Please welcome Harry Belafonte and Arlo Guthrie.
When I was asked to perform this duty, I found myself being very grateful to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because it meant that someplace in America there would be a standing edifice that would embody a small place in which millions and millions of young people would be able to glean a small bit of truth about a man who is one of the great sons of this great country. America can boast about many of her sons and daughters, but America is truly fortunate to have Pete Seeger. If I were to be given the opportunity to pick the fifth face on Mount Rushmore, I would nominate Pete Seeger. For those of us who have looked upon art as a curious gift, a troublesome gift, an awesome gift, looking for ways in which to be able to turn this gift into some constructive use, many of us were fortunate that in our lifetime, Pete Seeger lived. This is the second time in a year that I've had the opportunity to share a platform with Pete Seeger in a ceremony that was honoring him. The first was at the lawn of the White House, and President Clinton gave to Pete Seeger the National Medal of Honor for his contributions to America as a great artist and a great citizen. What made that moment so deeply moving and touching was the fact that just a few short decades earlier, this very same America, with men who sat in powerful places, who sought to rob this country of its soul, rob it of its truth, moved about unimpeded, crushing the lives of thousands of men and women, many of whom were artists. Pete Seeger was one of those, but he stood strong, he stood tall, and those of us who were also victims of that same cruelty could call upon Pete and his strength to find a way to combat this great evil through the use of art and a song. To know how profound that really is, you would have to have walked some of the streets that I have walked. You'd have had to have been in camps where wars of liberation were being fought by men and women who were seeking to get rid of the heels of oppression, and who could, in so doing, call upon a song to help inspire them to fulfill their great task in overthrowing injustice. When I walked through the Andes of Latin America and South America, in Peru, Guatemala, in Ecuador, in Chile, Pete Seeger has been there. When I've been to the kibbutzim in Israel, and I move among the young settlers in the Negev, the songs they sing tell me that Pete Seeger has been there. Long before I knew who Nelson Mandela was, Pete Seeger brought into the fold of song a song called Wimoe, which spoke to the plights of young South Africans seeking to overthrow apartheid. It was Pete and the Weavers who struck a chord in us to help illuminate the way. When we were in Tennessee, struggling to find a way in which to defeat the unjust laws of segregation, one night in Tennessee, waiting for the Ku Klux Klan to descend upon us, Pete Seeger took out his banjo, reached into the recesses of a quiet place, and brought forth a song called We Shall Overcome. Dr. King, sitting there, although this song was part of his racial heritage, did not know it. And when he heard Pete sing it, he said, "What a great song for the movement." And that's when We Shall Overcome became the banner for those of us who are in the quest of justice. And as I have been about the world, in nations where people have sought to find a place in the sun, when they sing We Shall Overcome, I always think of Pete Seeger. I'm thankful to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because somewhere all this history, all this truth, all this power shall be unfolded to those who will not find much of this truth anyplace else. We are in a dark period. This country is struggling for its soul. It's looking for truth. There are those who would denounce us as artists because we try to go into those places and we're told we have no place in politics, when in fact, the only thing that has really and truly inspired the progress of the human race has been culture and art and the song. I thank Pete Seeger for singing Goodnight Irene and helping me to discover Lead Belly, a man who sat down in the heart of Mississippi on the chain gang, giving America some of the greatest songs it had ever heard. I thank Pete Seeger at Saina, that brought to many who were anti-Semitic an inspired moment to sing a song that they didn't even know where it came from. There are two men, Paul Robeson and Pete Seeger. And I remember once in a discussion with them, they concluded, and I've always felt this to be the greatest center of my own truth. It says, get them to sing your song, and they will want to know who you are. And if they've made that first step, we can find a solution to hate. I give you my friend and colleague, Arlo Guthrie.
I think Harry just said it all, frankly. You know, I'll just mention this one thing. It's almost 50 years ago now that Goodnight Irene that Pete was shown singing with the Weavers. It's almost 50 years ago that it was on the charts and went to #1. And I can't think of a single event in Pete's life that is probably less important to him. And I think he's still embarrassed by it. And I think that says more about his willingness to be here tonight and who we are. There are a lot of branches to this rock and roll thing, and somewhere in these branches is all these voices singing so many different things. And the one thing that I don't think we should ever forget, and that Pete has reminded me all of my life, is that when we sing together, nobody can take us down as a country and as a people and as friends and families all over the world. And I just thank Pete for that. I welcome him. I'm proud to induct him into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.